even after all of her story, which was throughout her life, God knocking on those doors, opening doors for her, I have a feeling she's just at the beginning of what God has planned for her. Yeah. Some of you probably remember Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks. They did a comedy skit a few years ago called The 2013-Year-Old Man. In this skit, Reiner is interviewing Mel Brooks, who plays this 2013-year-old man. At one point, he asks the old man, "Did you always believe in the Lord?" And Brooks replied, "No, we had a guy in our village named Harry, and for a time we worshiped him." And Reiner said, "You worshiped a guy named Harry? Why?" And he replied, "Because he was big and mean, and he could break you in two with his bare hands." And Reiner said, "Well, do you have prayers? Did you pray?" And he said, "Oh, yes. We prayed. Let me tell you one. Oh, Harry, please don't be mean and hurt us or break us with your bare hands." And Reiner says, "So when did you start worshiping the Lord?" And he said, "Well, one day a big thunderstorm came up and a bolt of lightning struck Harry dead. And we came up around him and saw that he was dead. And so we said to one another, 'There's something bigger than Harry.'" And this is the way that Isaiah speaks about that which is bigger than Harry. It's from Isaiah 6, verses 1 through 8. Will you put that up on the screen? "In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, 'Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory.' At the sound of their voices, the doorposts and the thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. 'Woe to me,' I cried. 'I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty.' Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. And with it he touched my mouth and said, 'See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned for.' Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?' And I said, 'Here I am. Send me.'" The vision of God that Isaiah experienced is big. It fills me with awe, these particular passages. It informs the way I view God's heavenly kingdom, perhaps more than anything else. And I want you to get this picture of it. It's the hem of his robe fills the temple. There's the presence of these strange creatures with 6 wings, and smoke hangs in the air, probably with the smell of incense. And yet, with all the power and the wonder that is conjured up by this vision, the voice of the Lord calls out, wondering where he can get some help. I find it odd that the Lord, who is so big and so grand, doesn't just send. He doesn't just give commands. He asks for help. The big and powerful one says, "Who will go for me?" And the tone is that of a plea, somebody who needs, somebody who is seeking, somebody who is searching, somebody who is looking. He asks for help. Who will go for me? As if he knows, or as if he expects, that no one will answer, that the only response that he's likely to hear is the sound of his own voice. Now, I could be wrong. There could have been, a cast of thousands ready to spring into action at the sound of his voice. "I'm your woman," or "I'm your man, Lord. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to go." But if that were the case, could the voice of Isaiah even be heard among the throng of people? No. It was just Isaiah there. And how small he was in comparison. I wonder if he was hiding under one of the folds of God's hymn and hiding behind a column in the temple. And what really mystifies me is how Isaiah even summons the courage within him to speak into this awesome holiness. One of the influential movies of my childhood was Wizard of Oz. I know you remember that. And, that film put a lot of fear into me as a child. And you remember that scene where they've been on this journey. It's Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. And they go into the chamber where they were to meet the wizard. And, to stand in front of his fearsome awesomeness, they just trembled in fear. Who even makes a peep in the presence of such power under the weight of such awe? His size is so large. And yet, little Isaiah found a way to speak up. "Here I am, down here, sir, right here. I'm powerless to do much of anything, but I'll go for you. I'll do anything because you're asking." Could you summon that kind of courage? In this reading, in this vision of Isaiah, it's not just regal, which it is. It's not just awesome and fearful, which it is. It's not just wholly other, which it is. It does something else. It's inspiring. Isaiah's not dumbstruck. He's compelled. He's moved. He's inwardly changed to do something, go somewhere, and be someone for God. We spend a lot of time in church a lot of what we plan and do is about what happens on Sunday morning. Right here, we want it to be awesome and awe-inspiring and dynamic and real. It's not just entertainment, and the difference is, to me, between entertainment and something that's truly worshipful is not how the congregation responds, whether they're clapping or not. Some people say, "Oh, don't clap It's not entertainment. It's not entertainment, but it's because of the singers and the band. Oh, of course, they're not there right now, but the singers and the band are filled with the Spirit. It's them. They're moved. They're inspired. The band and the singers and Danny, it all comes together because they are inspired and seen and heard and answered God when God said, "Who will go for me?" But whatever we do and however we do it here on Sunday morning, we can't afford to drown out the voice of God calling us into action. Nor can we drown out the one who is inspired to answer the call, no matter how small their voice. You heard today, our PCC congregation, you heard the voice of our youth when they said, "We want to go to Costa Rica." And you stepped up and you made it possible for them to go because they heard God's voice saying, "Who will go?" You heard Juan and Angie when they cried out for help, and their space now for our children and youth has been transformed. You heard the cry, you hear every day the cry of our neighbors when they need a kind word or a little extra food in their pantry. Made possible by you, our hospitality team, our pastoral care connections team, our counseling ministries. They are inspired, motivated to go for God and go and go and go for God. God is large. God is huge. And God still says, "Who will go? Who can I send?" Put me in, Coach. Let's go, Pasadena. Let's go. Let us pray. Your great awesomeness, oh God, is something that we can't ever fully see or understand. And, we just barely glimpse the hem of your robe. But when you ask, when you say, "Who will go? Who shall I send?" we answer, "Here am I, Lord." Amen.